Well, if you're like me, you're watching this rally we had just get crushed by this war in the Middle East. This is a war that's been brewing for many, many years, and obviously, this is very unfortunate for all the people affected, and my heart goes out to them. But I'm here to talk about what's going on with crypto. So this can obviously be seen as a black swan event. Yesterday morning, I didn't wake up and say, I really hope. Well, actually, I did. I mean, we saw this kind of coming. The U.S. had pulled or told non-essential people to evacuate from the Middle East. So it's kind of been telegraphed, but we just didn't think. I mean, most of us didn't think there would be a war that would happen that fast, or at least attacks that could turn into a full-scale war. So there's a lot of other things going on. With the passage of the Stablecoin Genius Act as well as the Clarity Act close behind, there's just so many bullish things going on right now. But what will happen next with crypto? That's what's on my mind, probably what's on your mind. And with all the fear, are we going to go further down, or is this just short-term pain? So buckle up, as they say. We got a lot to discuss. And please remember, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, and this is purely for your entertainment. So this is Crypto Joe from Joe Knows the Cryptos. Hit that subscribe button right now so you can follow along on my journey. So let's talk about let's talk about Bitcoin right now, and let's talk about it becoming a risk-off asset. So this can be showcased by the Bitcoin dominance. I mean, look at the Bitcoin dominance, how it's risen in the last, recently in the last 24 hours, we've gone up 2.54%. And the really interesting part about this isn't just Bitcoin showing its dominance, but it's also Ethereum slightly rising as well. And the alts are the one that are taking the brunt of the pain right now. So you can see Bitcoin rises, Ethereum is starting to follow. So it's if you look at the futures in the stock market right now, let me pull those up. I mean, the stocks are going to get crushed today. I mean, for the most part, probably a 1 to 1.5% beating. It looks like right now in the futures market, anywhere from about 1 to 1.5%. And Bitcoin, while it is certainly taking a beating today, we're down only 0.89%. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens when that market does open up. When the stock market does open up at 9:30 Eastern Central Time, and to see what happens to the price of stocks and if it pulls Bitcoin down with it or not. And if you see here, this is the daily chart for Bitcoin, and I have the Fibonacci's from the last all-time high, from the last cycle. We drew a no, that's actually from this top, my bad. So look, I drew it from the earlier recent all-time high, and you see this 786 holding extraordinarily well. It's like it bounced off that floor of resistance, floor of support, at around 102 and change, 102,250-ish. It bounced off that very nicely and held that very well. It's a very strong floor of support. And if it can hold that, I mean, we'll be in great shape. Now, there's a lot of unknowns that we still don't know yet. But right now it's around 104,716. It's held this floor. If it can't hold that floor, the next floor of support is down at 96 and change. Below that, 92. Then we got 87, all the way down to 82. But right now, it's holding very well above that 102 mark. Now, again, we'll have to wait to see when the broader market opens if people liquidate their Bitcoin to cover shorts and things like that. That can certainly happen. But right now, like I said, it's holding that floor very well. It's becoming that risk-off asset that we hope, people talk about Bitcoin being digital gold. Well, here is its opportunity to shine, to show people that it is a risk-off asset, that it is a flight to quality. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens to the bond market today, because that could show the 10-year treasury, typically in wartimes. Well, typically in times of uncertainty or doubt, people are it's a flight to quality. They're going to, sell their riskier assets and go to less riskier or fixed income instruments like bonds and things like that. And if Bitcoin can become one of that, can really showcase and shine as a gold alternative or a gold or a market hedge against stocks, even bonds and real estate. So this is a test for Bitcoin, and I hope it passes the test. Now, the altcoins are not faring so well. I mean, if you look at where the altcoins are, The last day, Sui down 8%, Jupiter 11%, Fartcoin 18%, Pepe 12%. The meme coins, the higher the risk, the more the beating. Fartcoin, Pepe 18 and 12% respectively. AVAX down 8%. You see these things and you think, well, obviously the less riskier, the less of a loss. And that certainly holds true because you see Bitcoin holding on to less than a 1%. In the last 24 hours, you're looking at where's Bitcoin on this chart? It's probably so tiny. 2% loss. Now, obviously, that's slightly more than the stock markets are predicted to lose today, but it also took the brunt because it was the market that was open. We can't forget about that as well. So then I look at this and I say, well, where can we go from here? Well, let's talk about other things that might affect this market. We had a sharp increase in crude oil. I was just talking to someone yesterday that it is we were down here at like $62 a barrel yesterday. And this is a far cry from the $84, almost $85 we were less than a year ago. And it is that significant drop off that has helped us in inflation. If you think about it, the cost of oil is involved in the cost of oil affects the cost of every single good and service out there. If you go and buy a toy at the store, not only does it have to be shipped there, it's made out of oil, a good chance. If it's a plastic toy, there's a good chance it's predominantly made from oil or oil derivatives, and it's made in a process that involves a lot of oil. So everything is affected by the price of oil. So even though, there's tariffs, in which I said the tariffs aren't going to be nearly as impacted because the cost to ship these things is down 30, 40%. If you look at the cost of oil, that's almost that's a significant drop off between $62 and $84. You're talking about almost a 40% drop off in price. So that affects shipping costs. That affects the cost to produce, the cost to ship once you get it there, the cost to go buy it. If oil is, obviously the biggest determinant in the price of gas, if I have normally my gas budget is $300 a month, if oil goes down by 40%, my gas costs go down, my out-of-pocket expense goes down, and that means more dollars in my pocket either to save or spend. So it's good for the economy, it's good for inflation, and it's good overall. Well, that is affecting us greatly today. This is going to be the bigger driver of inflation than tariffs ever would be. And we're spiked, from $62 to $73. That's like a 14, 15% increase. My math might be off. I'm doing public math here, but it's a significant increase. Yeah, about a 14, 15, 16% increase in the price of oil is going to sharply change that inflationary number. And if you look at where the Fed rate watch is right now, obviously it's baked in. There's going to be no rate drops. But now you have another problem is war. There's a song that goes along with that. I'm singing it in my head. I don't want to sing it out loud and risk showing you what a bad singer I am. But the reality is that war isn't good for, they say it's not good for anybody. Well, that's not true. It's terrible. It's a terrible, terrible thing. But financially, it's a drain. But it's unfortunately, people do make a lot of money off war. And I'm not going to go into the details on that. But, we might be in for a very short situation with Iran and Israel. But there's just so much tension, so much hate-fueled stuff going on right now that I don't know that this is going to be a very short ordeal. Don't know. I hope it is. But, the talk of when Iran pulled out of the nuclear talks, Israel pulled out of the nuclear talks, and hopefully we don't go to a very conventional and unconventional war here, because really that's the X factor. The unknown piece is how long is this situation going to be going on for? And so really the biggest driver of Bitcoin, I can get into technical analysis all day long. And the technicals don't look that great. You can watch a lot of other channels with people way smarter than me with the technicals. But just looking at the very macroeconomic picture, the fear is that these trade routes where we ship oil is going to be greatly affected. You change the price of oil, you cause inflation, you're going to cause monetary tightening, monetary policy that's tightening, not loosening, and that puts less money in people's pockets. Bitcoin probably, and it looks like it's faring very well. The alts may get further crushed before there's a turnaround. But I do think that this is a short-term pain event. I do think that there's an abundance of fear right now. And once that fear settles, hopefully it does. Hopefully there's a rationale or coming to reasoning And I just don't see it being very quick. It could take a couple weeks to play out, but this is the thing that we're going to have to watch now. It's no longer tariffs, right? The guidelines, the rails have been set. The stablecoin bill is all but passed. It just has to go to the president's desk for signature. The Clarity Act is right there. So the rails have been built for this crypto architecture. The problem is the macroeconomic picture, which has been in focus for the last 6 to 8 months that we've been watching it very carefully, is going to play very, very carefully into everything. And right now, this war is the X factor. It is the black swan event, and seeing what happens and how it unfolds. Now, as we've seen, Bitcoin, through its dominance, has fared well. It's just going to depend on, if you're heavily into alts, it's going to be a rough and rocky ride. If you're heavily into Bitcoin, that's, I can't say it's a safe place for your money. It's still a risky asset, but it looks like it's faring much better than a lot of other assets out there. And it's going to be very telling what happens with the stock market if that drags Bitcoin down today, or if people use Bitcoin as a flight to quality and they hedge themselves, they sell their stocks and they buy Bitcoin, and actually causes Bitcoin, there's going to be a bear bull battle to see who prevails, but that might help Bitcoin's price stay high. And if we can stay above that 102 mark, we'll be faring very well for Bitcoin. That's about all I have. I took a little bit of a hiatus, got burned out, but I'm back and I'm happy to be here. So with that, that's all I got. If you liked anything I said today and you made it this far, hit the like button, subscribe and share, do all those things, and I'll see you